Imagine a world where two of the greatest military minds of the 20th century, men who redefined armored warfare and became legends in their own time, were destined to clash in epic battles across deserts and fields, but never did. What if I told you that General George S. Patton, the fiery American commander known for his unyielding drive, and Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the cunning desert fox of Germany, shared a connection so profound yet so distant that when Rommel met his tragic end, Patton's response was absolutely nothing. No fiery speech, no reflective note, no acknowledgement at all. This isn't just a footnote in history, it's a window into the souls of these warriors, the chaos of war, and the unspoken truths that shaped the Allied victory. Stick with me as we uncover the layers of this mystery, revealing secrets that even seasoned history buffs might not know, and explore how their paths almost crossed in ways that could have rewritten the war's narrative. To grasp the weight of Patton's silence, we must rewind to the fateful day, October 14, 1944. Deep in the heart of Lorraine, France, Lieutenant General George S. Patton Jr. hunkered down in his 3rd Army command post. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and cigarette smoke, as relentless rain hammered the tent flaps, transforming the once promising landscape into a quagmire of mud and despair. Patton's forces, fresh off a blistering sprint across France that had electrified the world just months earlier, now slogged through some of the most grueling combat of the European theater. The Moselle River swelled like an angry serpent, blocking advances, while the ancient, impregnable fortress city of Metz stood defiant, its walls echoing with the ghosts of centuries-old battles. Casualties mounted daily. Brave soldiers felled not just by enemy fire but by the merciless elements. Patton, ever the strategist with a poet's soul hidden beneath his gruff exterior, pored over maps stained with coffee rings, his mind racing to break the stalemate. An aide slipped in with the latest intelligence: German troop movements, supply shortages, mounting American losses, and grim weather predictions that promised more misery. But amid these reports, there was no whisper of a seismic event unfolding hundreds of miles away: the death of Erwin Rommel, one of the war's most iconic figures. Historical archives, from declassified U.S. Army documents to Patton's own meticulously kept diaries, paint a clear picture. Patton received no special briefing on Rommel's demise that day. No urgent telegram, no hushed conversation among staff. The general, consumed by the immediate fight, issued no public statement, jotted no private reflection, and shared no offhand remark that anyone deemed worthy of note. This void in the record isn't an oversight, it's the story itself. It speaks volumes about the intricate dance between these two titans, their shared tactical brilliance, and the invisible threads of fate that kept them apart. As we delve deeper, we'll explore not just what was said, or unsaid, but why this silence endures as a testament to their legacies, enriched with lesser-known details from eyewitness accounts and post-war analyses that add fresh depth to the tale. Let's journey back to the moment that sealed Rommel's fate, a chapter steeped in intrigue, loyalty, and the dark underbelly of a crumbling regime. On that crisp October morning in 1944, near the quaint town of Herrlingen in southern Germany, Erwin Rommel, husband, father, and revered military leader, faced a nightmare no battlefield could prepare him for. Recovering at home from grievous injuries sustained months earlier, Rommel was visited by two high-ranking emissaries from Berlin, Generals Wilhelm Burgdorf and Ernst Mazel. These men, bearing the weight of Adolf Hitler's suspicions, confronted Rommel with accusations linking him to the infamous July 20th plot, an audacious attempt by German officers to assassinate the Führer and end the war's madness. Rommel, whose loyalty to Germany ran deeper than any party line, had indeed harbored doubts about the regime's direction, as evidenced by private correspondences and discussions with confidants that surfaced years later. But direct involvement? Historians debate it to this day, with some arguing his name was leveraged more as a symbol than a proven conspirator. The generals laid out Rommel's grim options with chilling precision. First, a trial before the notorious People's Court, presided over by the fanatical Roland Freisler, where conviction was a foregone conclusion. This path promised not only Rommel's execution but the arrest and potential doom of his family, his devoted wife Lucy and teenage son Manfred, under the Nazi doctrine of Sippenhaft, or kin liability, which punished relatives for perceived treasons. Second, immediate arrest, dragging the same horrors upon his loved ones without even the facade of justice. Or third, a quiet exit, ingest cyanide, and the regime would spin a heroic tale of death from prior wounds, sparing his family, preserving his honor, and granting a state funeral befitting a national icon. Rommel, ever the pragmatist who had outmaneuvered foes from Tobruk to Normandy, weighed this impossible calculus. He chose the poison, not out of cowardice, but to shield those he cherished most. In poignant final moments reconstructed from Manfred Rommel's heartfelt post-war memoirs and testimonies from household staff, Erwin bid farewell to his family. He explained the dire straits with a composure that masked his inner turmoil, emphasizing that his decision stemmed from love for them and duty to Germany. Donning his cherished Afrika Korps jacket, a garment symbolizing his pinnacle achievements in the North African sands, and clutching his field marshal's baton, an emblem of hard-won authority, Rommel stepped into the waiting car. The drive was brief, the end swift. By around 1 p.m. local time, the Desert Fox was gone, his body slumped in the vehicle as the generals orchestrated the cover-up. The Nazi propaganda machine sprang into action with ruthless efficiency. On October 15, the German High Command issued a meticulously worded announcement. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel had succumbed to the severe cranial injuries inflicted on July 17, when Allied fighter bombers strafed his staff car near Liverat in Normandy. This narrative transformed a coerced death into a martyr's sacrifice, aligning perfectly with the regime's need to rally a weary populace. Hitler himself decreed a national day of mourning, a move that underscored Rommel's value as a propaganda asset even in death. The state funeral on October 18 in Ulm was a spectacle of military pomp. Flags at half-mast, a procession of dignitaries, and a eulogy by Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt extolling Rommel's unwavering service. Wreaths from the Führer adorned the casket, and radio broadcasts beamed the event nationwide, reinforcing the myth of a warrior felled by the enemy. This fabricated story rippled across the globe, reaching Allied ears through monitored broadcasts and intelligence channels. In the US and Britain, newspapers like the New York Times reported it at face value, noting Rommel's tactical genius while speculating on the blow to German morale. Yet, cracks in the facade were evident to keen observers. Allied intelligence analysts, sifting through ultra-intercepts and agent reports, noted inconsistencies. The suddenness of the death amid ongoing purges following the July plot raised eyebrows. Some German officers, privy to whispers in Berlin circles, harbored private doubts, as revealed in diaries like those of General Heinrich Eberbach, who later confirmed suspicions of foul play. But in the fog of war, the official line held, and the full truth, that Rommel was essentially executed by his own side, remained buried until Nuremberg trials and declassifications in the late 1940s exposed the regime's brutality. Patton, entrenched in Lorraine, absorbed this news through the same filtered lens as the rest of the world. Third Army intelligence summaries from that week, preserved in the National Archives, mention Rommel's passing amid updates on enemy dispositions and weather patterns. But why the utter silence from a man renowned for his outspoken nature? To unravel this, we must examine the phantom rivalry that history has romanticized, drawing from a wealth of sources including Patton's letters, Rommel's papers, and contemporary military analyses that highlight their parallel yet divergent paths. George Patton and Erwin Rommel were cut from similar cloth, bold innovators who championed speed, surprise, and armored mobility in an era still clinging to static defenses. Rommel's exploits in World War I, detailed in his 1937 book, Infantry Attacks, showcased his daring infantry tactics that earned him the Pour le Mérite, Germany's highest honor. Translated and studied in U.S. military circles, the work influenced officers like Patton, who devoured tactical literature voraciously. Patton, a cavalryman at heart, had honed his own ideas during interwar exercises, advocating for tank-led offensives that mirrored Rommel's blitzkrieg flair. Both men chafed under bureaucratic superiors, Rommel clashing with Hitler over strategic retreats, Patton railing against Eisenhower's cautious allocations. Yet, their rivalry was more myth than reality, amplified by post-war media and films like the 1970 Patton, which dramatized imagined duels. In truth, their timelines tantalizingly overlapped without collision. Rommel arrived in North Africa in February 1941, masterminding victories at Gazala and Tobruk that earned his nickname. Patton entered the fray in November 1942 with Operation Torch, commanding forces in Morocco. By March 1943, after the Kasserine Pass setback, Patton assumed control of 2 corps. But Rommel, plagued by health issues and supply woes, departed Africa on March 9, just days after Patton's appointment. When Patton launched his El-Getter offensive on March 17, he faced General Jürgen von Arnim, not Rommel. Intelligence briefs from the time, including those from the U.S. War Department, confirm no direct engagements. This pattern persisted. In Sicily 1943, Patton's 7th Army raced Montgomery's forces, but Rommel was in Italy fortifying defenses. By D-Day in June 1944, Rommel commanded Army Group B in Normandy, frantically strengthening the Atlantic Wall with innovations like underwater obstacles and minefields, efforts that inflicted heavy casualties on Allied beaches. Patton, sidelined after the infamous soldier-slapping incidents in Sicily, didn't activate 3rd Army until August 1, post-breakout. By then, Rommel lay wounded from the July 17 strafing. A low-flying RAF Typhoon pilot, Charlie Fox, later credited with the attack that shattered Rommel's skull and sidelined him permanently. Adding layers to this narrative are insights from Rommel's The Rommel Papers, edited by B. H. Liddell Hart and published in 1953, where Rommel praises American logistical prowess and mobility, qualities he saw echoed in Patton's French dash. Conversely, Patton's aides, like Colonel Charles Codman, recalled the general's admiration for Rommel's audacity, viewing him as a worthy benchmark. Yet, without a shared battlefield, their bond remained abstract, a mutual respect forged in reports rather than fire. In October 1944, as Patton grappled with Metz's fortifications, ancient bastions like Fort Driant, built with interlocking firing positions and underground tunnels that defied assaults, this distant news of Rommel's heroic death barely registered. Patton's diaries from the period overflow with rants on mud-choked roads, fuel shortages that idled his tanks, and the agony of static warfare alien to his soul. Over 7,000 Third Army casualties that month alone underscored the grind, far from the glory of August's 600-mile advance.